conversations based on what you told us tonight, what they've told us, instead of having that conversation about how do I get better, you criticized the administration. You talked about how bad a job the principal and the superintendent were doing. You told Becky Gordon that, and then you told them that to their face. And there's not a lot of employers that keep guys like you around. Why should this be any different?
I guess I can't answer that question for you. I mean, that's ultimately all of your decision. And at the end of the day, my hope was that things would get better, and I felt that it was sounding the alarm to making it better. I mean, I hope that people can understand that I was put in a position where I'm left with either a job or not a job, and that's not a.
Well, there's not a lot of employers whose sole job is to educate children. And so any sort of, let's say, comparisons to the private sector is going to fall apart pretty quickly, not least because there are constitutional protections in place here that aren't in place in other employers. So he does have due process rights that other employers don't have. He does have the right. He cannot be fired for no reason at all. They have to put a legitimate reason forward. And if you're surmising, sir, that they fired him really because of they didn't like his attitude, well, then you have to then compare what they actually charged him with. See, that's a protection that the government workers have. You can't just come up with no reason, and you can't come up with a fake reason. And so if you believe that the real reason is his animosity because he stood up to him, then you have to acquit him and you have to vote no. And the reason is because the charges here are not for standing up to him, standing up to the bully. The charges are that he's not a good teacher. And so if you believe, again, that really what the misconduct is here is that he stood up to this man, then you need to understand what a public employer is. You need to understand the Constitution. And more importantly, you need to understand what didn't happen here, which is those constitutional safeguards and following the law.
Where in the Constitution is that?
It's called the due process. It's the 14th Amendment to the United States. It happened after we had a civil war, and it applies to all the states. And it says that you cannot deprive a person of life, liberty, or property without the due process of law. And that he has a property interest in his employment. And that is why the due process clause applies here. That's why Loudermill, as she knows, and will tell you that he had notice and opportunity to be heard. He didn't get notice. So that's why the Constitution applies here, among other reasons. But because, again, you are a government employer. So the Constitution applies to you in this moment, just as it applies to him. So you really do need to be educated, sir, and I appreciate you for listening here, because the government has to follow the Constitution. Whatever other employment experience you may have had, that's different. Because again, a private employee can be fired for any reason or no reason at all, except for an illegal reason. But that's not the same with a public employee. So thank you for that opportunity for correcting that.
Yeah, well, and after 32 years in the private law, I kind of feel like I know a little.
Okay. Well, do you know about the 14th Amendment then?
I'm not finished.
Okay.
So there's a reason that those two questions were paired with each other.
Okay.
And it's because I first wanted to know if there was an explanation that was not provided, and then I wanted to know why he didn't, when given an opportunity, offer that explanation to his employer. He's answered. I am disappointed to hear the answer, frankly.
Okay.
I don't have any.
Well, I've got kids that go to school here too. And so I care about their education. I care about other kids' education. And if staff are being treated in a certain way and the morale is down, the only way I know to hopefully try to slow it down or make it differently is to go to administration about it.
So in your 32 years as an attorney, did you study retaliation, for example? Because that's what he's talking about. He's saying that he was afraid of being retaliated against. He was afraid of his family being retaliated against by that man. So when you're saying, why didn't you do everything that you could there, he just answered. He was afraid of retaliation.
Well.
Board Member Langer, you're not required to answer Attorney Scott Crowder's question.
questions, so I don't want to monopolize time, but I do have a few questions. So I do appreciate that. I believe that as a coach, you've had a great impact on your teams and your wrestlers. I see a lot of people here today that are probably in support of that. My concern as a board member is with the education piece of your job. Having said that, as the policy chairperson for this board, I have a question about that. Number one, are you aware of all the policies and procedures, specifically policy and procedure 710 and 711? I know that those numbers just changed, but that's the number that has been in place for the duration of your tenure.
I'll be honest, I can't claim to know the specifics of that. No.
But you, as an employee, you do know that all policies and procedures are things that you have to abide by as an employee of the district, correct?
I understand that, sir.
Let's see, my other thoughts. Here's a question. Do you consider working out during your class, not directing students at the station during the workout period, professional behavior?
No, I consider, bless you, I consider modeling good teaching practice, but again, like the conversation with Associate Principal Gordon, I agree as far as proximity and closer modeling the activity that the students are doing. I think that would be certainly an improvement upon what I was currently doing in some of the videos that I showed, yes. So I'm not negating that. So as far as improving what I saw there, of course, there definitely can be improvement on that, yes.
My next piece is, do you have in the workout facility, do you have a phone caddy that is available to all teachers in your class for students to put their phones and all their digital, their cell phones, their watches, all that stuff in the beginning of the class?
So there's a phone thing inside the door. I've asked students to put it either there or on the table as they walk in. You could see the table was there, and you saw when I went to the back, it's all the audio, and there's the actual school phone is like tucked in back there. So everything there's a caddy inside the door and then the table. So yes, I've asked them to put those there. That's quite a challenge to continuously monitor and get them to follow those directions. I'm not sure what else to say about it. It becomes very frustrating as a teacher because again, students will, even if they set it there will be moments where, you look that way, phone's back in their pocket, you don't realize it, you're pulling it out somewhere else, you're addressing it again. It's kind of like musical chairs of phones. And so it's, especially in a movement type class, as opposed to a classroom where I can have them in a seat, there's a lot of movement and there's a very, again, I care about all the students. And one of my biggest concerns here is that students will feel, especially the student that, in this situation, at the end of the day, I feel terrible for the student. I don't want any students to feel like whatever happens to me has anything to do with them, right? And so I'm very concerned that somehow this will have a student think, this happened to Mr. Miller because of this. I just want to go on record, absolutely 100% not. Everything in my life, in my teaching, in everything that I do is on me. So I want to make that clear so students feel so there's that understanding, okay? But I will say that there's challenges. I'm a parent too. And there's moments where, please, off the electronics, do this, don't do that. All I can tell you is that there's 25 to 30 kids in a class moving around, and they all have different families with different rules and different things, and I'm trying my best to mediate as much as possible to fit each family and what they would do. And some kids will pull out their phone and because their mom's on the phone, and I'm asking them to get off, and they're well, it's my mom. I understand, but I need it put away. I'm just simply, it's not an easy thing. It doesn't mean I can't do it better. It's just an extreme challenge in a teaching and learning environment.
We get that, that's a challenge we've had as a board. My last thought and question is when you say you have no good options, why is it, if the best case scenario happens tonight, why would you desire to stay at a school if you feel like
I think that's a great question. I felt like it was important to go through this process with the hopes that maybe there can be a community understanding and conversation, and that if I'm the person to fall on the sword, then so be it. But I see things that I'm concerned about as a parent, as a teacher, as a coach, and I've seen a lot of great things go on here. And so if the alarm bells go off, there's only one way to go about this. If I resign and put my head down and walk away, one is somebody else gets to tell my story. And I get painted into like the things that are already being hit. Again, I've been banned from campus, which I don't understand why, which makes it difficult for me to do Wednesday get-togethers with my wrestlers or do other things for kids in the summer unless I get permission to be on campus. Why would I be in that position? I mean, I understand if I'm making mistakes and I can do something better, but I don't understand the extreme.
And so I represent, employees. I don't do bankruptcy law. I don't do family law. I represent employees. And we will have people who get seriously sexually abused in the workplace. Also called racial epithets in the workplace. Nooses in their lockers, things like that. And some people will say, why do you want to work at a place where you get nooses in your locker? Why do you want to work at a place where you're getting sexually assaulted all the time? And you know what we say? There's a law that protects you from being sexually assaulted in the workplace. There's a law that protects you from being racially discriminated in the workplace here. And in this case, there should be a school board that protects the good employees from being bullied by the bad superintendent. And I think that's the answer to you, sir, is that you're blaming the victim.
I didn't blame anybody, I'm just asking a question. And absolutely, as a school board, we want to protect the good employees, absolutely.
Well, we've got a chance to show it.
Any other questions from board members?
I don't think so.
Were there, based on the presentation by Mr. Miller and his representatives,
Ben Hitchcock Cross.
I'm sorry, what did I say?
You said his representatives.
I'm sorry. After Mr. Miller's presentation, are there any questions that were raised in your minds as board members that you wish to ask Mr. Farner?
I was just wondering about, Mr. Miller said he had requested the videos ahead of time. Did you ever get anything like
We
that?
told him we did not want to give them out as student records, but if he wanted to review them, he could contact us and we would view them with him.
Did he contact you to do them?
Any additional questions, board members?
Is that the normal process that one would go through?
There is no normal, I've not been gone through this before. We're really sensitive to student records. I think it's in more recent times that video recordings like that have even been identified as a student record. So we just really try to be protective of that sort of thing and not give those out. So we said if you wanted to view them, you would view them, you could come in and view them with us.
They just showed the world these videos. We just all saw them. We got a video. I mean, it's going to be up on YouTube.
In this environment, we didn't feel that the students would be
But
viable.
the person that you're going to terminate can't see the videos?
You could see them. You need to come in and see them with us.
Okay.
Board members, any additional questions?
Yeah, do you have any response to the allegations regarding the due process and 14th Amendment that?
We also worked with attorneys throughout this process and we made sure that we were providing notice, everything that we did, made sure that he had notice of what was happening.
Was it Chrissy you were working with? No. Because it would be problematic if you were both representing the board and assisting in the termination, right? That would also be a violation of his due process rights.
I would disagree with you on that assessment, but I will answer the question. I was not working with Mr. Farner on notices provided to Mr. Miller, other than I worked with the school board on the, the July 3rd letter that I sent to Mr. Miller. That was the one and only notice letter that I was involved with preparing.
Okay.
Do you want to hold up your YouTube channel while you're here?
Deliberate Indifference, Wisconsin.
What is it?
Deliberate Indifference, Wisconsin. Stay with us. We'll keep you informed. I also do a lot of Jack Benny tributes. All right. Appreciate it.
If there are no further questions by the board, I will turn things over to you, Mr. Farner, if you wish to make any closing comments, and then Mr. Miller, I will close with any closing comments you wish to provide.
Thank you. We do not want to be here this evening. The situation was not created by the Arrowhead administration or school board. The situation is a result of one individual not holding himself to the expected standards to which all affected teachers hold themselves. If Mr. Miller was teaching in a manner that was similar to his outstanding colleagues, we would not be here. It's that simple. The administrative team has an obligation to do all we can to attract, secure, and retain outstanding teachers. We make those efforts every day. We want the best for our students. We want the best for our teachers. We want the best teachers for our students. We want the best teachers for our families. We want the best teachers for our community. In my 1 year in the district, I've seen the incredible collaborative work that takes place between our outstanding teachers and our administrators. We are all on the same team. We're working together to make the necessary changes to ensure our students are prepared for higher education in the world of work. I've been meeting with teachers one-on-one for the past 6 months. I've been sitting in on department meetings and faculty meetings, and I could not be more excited about the work we are doing and the positive impact it's going to have on our students. We value and support our outstanding teachers. We work with them every day to ensure our students are receiving the most rigorous and relevant learning opportunities. We support our outstanding teachers by having high expectations for all staff members. We support our outstanding teachers by holding all teachers accountable to the high standards those outstanding teachers set. Every administrative team of which I've been a part has strived to attract and retain the best teachers and has done so successfully. We are attracting great teachers to Arrowhead. We are extremely excited about the staff we are putting together. If we say it's acceptable to allow a teacher to mislead the entire district by working out when he's supposed to be teaching, we are not respecting our outstanding teachers or our taxpayers. If we say it's acceptable for teachers to fail to adequately supervise classrooms so they do not notice when a student's being bullied, or they don't notice dangerous horseplay is taking place, we're not meeting our obligation to keep every student safe. If we say it's okay for students to get excellent grades for not being engaged in classroom activities, we're failing to meet our obligation to provide students with rigorous instruction, and we send a terrible message that some classes are simply not that important, and we again disrespect the commitment of our outstanding educators who are holding students to high academic standards all the time. If we say it's okay for some teachers to follow and enforce district policies, but not all, we are failing our teachers, our students, our board, and our community. We cannot have different rules and expectations for some teachers. We cannot ignore unacceptable behavior. We owe it to our students, staff, parents, and community to only employ educators who hold themselves accountable to the highest professional standards and levels of effectiveness. It's for all those reasons the administration recommends the termination of Mr. Miller's employment contract with the Arrowhead Union High School District effective immediately.
So as you've seen, the evidence here that that this man has shown indicates clearly that it's his way or the highway, and that's really all there is to it. And we're very clear that this is a political decision. We're very clear that the facts really ultimately don't matter, because they certainly haven't mattered to the administration here. We are very clear that ultimately this is going to be a question about the future of Arrowhead and your future. And we are very clear that this man has told you all what is at stake here, that this audience has told you all what is at stake here. And if you want to focus on the picayune details or to try to ask my client questions to entrap him, I think we have exposed that there are systematic problems at Arrowhead and the legal representation that it is receiving here. And, you know, I get that all the time here. We're listening to our attorneys and we know better. And part of what I do is come in and clean up the mess after you all have listened to your attorneys. I just settled a case. It's in the newspaper. You can see that all there. $134,000. And why is it? Because the board listened to their attorney. So, again, you may think that you are on solid ground, and it may be for a judge to determine. You may think that you're on solid ground having closed session without proper notice. A judge may think otherwise. You may think that you're on solid ground on these due process issues, but a judge may think otherwise. And that is, I think, those two pillars, the actual laws that are going on in the state of Wisconsin and the democratic scrutiny. Those are your two Scylla and Charybdises. You here are the ship, which this is, of course, the ancient Greek myth here of these two terrible, routes. And you have the duty to steer this ship through. And ultimately, the question is, are you going to listen to the community, or are you going to listen to a superintendent whose history really speaks for itself? I encourage you all to read the article about his time in Greenfield and how it's so clear that the reason that he was pushed out from Greenfield is because he caused the self-same riot among the teachers. It was very clear. It's in the paper. You can all read it. There's multiple ones of them. He makes a statement that is self-serving. And this is exactly what we have here.
Fear-based leadership. Fear-based.
Fear-based.
Leadership.
That's right. Because, again, there's a lot of words, a lot of educational mumbo-jumbo that's been spoken here today. But we saw, and you all are here, and we all saw, one man who cares about his impact on the community, and another man who sees the community as his plaything. And I'll submit to you that there are real people's lives that this man has ruined. There are people who he's bullied. And this man is saying that he is going to not put up with it any longer. And that's when we talk about America and we talk about freedom. This man is very clear that he has taken ownership for the children and responsibility for the children. This other man is using the power that you gave him to go on a little fantasy, to act like he's the big man that he's not. Because that's the same behavior that we got from this principal here in physically bullying the special education teacher is ultimately what we have on a larger scale here. So if you want to focus in on the behavior in that class, and I suspect that all of you know exactly what went on in your high school class, and a lot of these statements here about how you're aghast at the behavior in there is frankly, it's just not believable. It's not believable. This whole room here was able to tell you how ridiculous it was to sit there and watch that tape and say that this man should be terminated for what happened in there. It's not believable. That's what I'm telling you. Your crocodile tears, your fake emotions are not believable. This man is believable. The commitment that he has, this room is speaking to that. This community is speaking to that. And frankly, your sour faces tell all these people enough about what your true interest is here. It's you don't, excuse me, sir, that may be.
I can't even believe you.
Okay.
I can't.
Okay, board members, let's allow Attorney Hitchcock-Cross to finish, please.
But it's because you don't believe in the Constitution and you don't believe in the First Amendment and you don't want people to tell you things you don't want to hear. And you know what? There's a statute that says that he has the right to tell you what you don't want to hear. You can't fire him until he tells you what you don't want to hear. You threatened him, just like you threatened all the people here, be quiet or we'll kick you all out. We're not children, ma'am. We're adults in the United States of America, and we're telling you what you're doing is wrong. And we have every right to do it, and if you don't like it, then you should find another job, because you don't belong in public service. That's what I'm here today to tell you. This is America, and you should act like it.
Attorney Hitchcock.
That's my name.
Can we please keep the focus on the matter?
When your clients stop trespassing on my client's First Amendment due process rights, then no problem.
I have asked the board to refrain from comment.
Did that work?
Allow you to- They stopped speaking when I asked them to refrain from comment.
Oh, okay. Okay. So that's what this is all about when it comes down to it. Are you all for the Constitution, or are you all for yourselves? That's it. So you can show us all. Are you for the Constitution of the United States of America? Do you believe in freedom and democracy, or is it your way or the highway? Because you've got the right representative for it if you do. Thank you.
Okay, at this point in time, Board President Schubert, I'm going to turn things over to you to get us into closed session.
Thank you. On behalf of the school board, we wish to thank both Mr. Miller and his counsel, as well as Mr. Farner, for their presentations this evening. At this time, we're going to move to private quarters for deliberation. So I am looking to convene in closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 19.851A. I'm looking for a motion for closed session.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, we're going to take a roll call vote. Member Angeli? Yay. Member Banneker?
Yay.
Member Ferris?
Yes.
Member Hemmer? Member Langer?
Yes.
Member Miller?
Yeah.
Member Schubert is a yay. Member Wood? Thank you so much. We will move to close. We will go to the